All right, good evening, everyone. Let's see. Elder Farrell, will you give us a word of prayer, please, sir? Amen. Thank you, sir. All right. I know y'all ready to answer this question this evening, right? Let's see. The question was, how many siblings did Jesus have? What was that? It depends. Here we go already. All right. So I venture to believe there's going to be multiple answers on this one. All right, who wants to go first? You going to go first? All right, who got an answer for me? How many siblings did Jesus have? You go. Everybody want to wait until somebody else go first. Who's gonna be brave enough to go first? You gonna go first? All right, y'all gonna put the first lady on the spot, make her go first. I'm gonna prop this door open just in case. Go ahead, Ramesh. Way to come to that answer. All right, anybody want to challenge that or come up with something different? That's what you had too. That's what everybody had now, right? You had something different, Karen? Yeah, you're going real deep, which is partially true. Let's go ahead and look at what Ramisha had. She gave a Matthew text. You want to give it again? I also have Mark, but Mark 6 chapter. Let's go ahead and read that one while she's looking up the other one. Let's turn to Mark, the 6th chapter, and start in verse 3, I believe. Somebody read that when you get it, please. I got Mark 6 and 3. Mark 6 and 3. Yeah, Mark 6 and, starting at verse 3.
Is not this cup the Son of Man, the brother of James and Joseph and
Let's see. Joseph is, yeah.
And Judah and Simon, and are not his sisters here with us? And they were offended at him.
Okay, so did you have the text you had? All right, Matthew 13, verses 55 and 56, she said. It's probably going to echo what we just read, but okay. So that's the other one. We don't have to read that one. So based on that logic, she is right. It was at least 4 brothers, it was 4 brothers and at least 2 sisters because there was a plural there. It could have been more. So what's the total number? We know at least 6, right? Okay. Now, Sister Carter is saying it's partially true as well. If you do genealogy based on mother's side, father's side, you could be a little bit more creative. But based on what we found in the text, just in the verbatim, that's what we're looking for. Okay? Anything else? Anybody have something different? All right. Yes, ma'am. What was that? That's the fine print part of it. Basically, blood related, you can only count his mother's side, but Joseph was recognized as his earthly father. So I know some families that people consider their half brothers and sisters just as real as their other brothers and sisters. So if you want to be technical, you can do it either way. Okay. Yep. Yeah. His earthly, his heavenly Father. Mhm. Right. Yeah. Yeah. If you research Jesus' life, he didn't really look at himself in his human part. He really looked at in his divinity when he spoke about who he was. So when you speak about his divinity, it's unlimited, so, which includes us. But we were just asking from the text, and so any of those answers would suffice. Just wanted to kind of give you an idea as far as his actual brothers and sisters, so you can kind of pinpoint the genealogy there. Okay. All right. Question for next week. Well, the next time we meet. All right. Question is: who ate a little book and got indigestion? Who ate a little book and got indigestion? Who ate a little book and got indigestion? All right. My question will be, why are they eating a little book? But you'll find out when you do the research. All right. Before I forget, I said next week, but obviously that's Thanksgiving week. It's hard to believe Thanksgiving is already here. But we typically don't meet the Wednesday of Thanksgiving. So is that going to be our norm this time? We're going to consent to just skip next week, and then we'll meet back here 2 weeks from tonight. Okay? Everybody good with that? All right. Any other announcements or anything need to be made right now? I usually do announcements at the end, but anything pertinent that we might forget? All right. Good deal. All right. Last week, we've been studying leadership, confession of faith. We've pretty much concluded that. But last week we had some scenarios and wanted you to learn from these scenarios how to handle church conflicts or conflicts inside of the church, and also how to use the resources that we have now learned are available to us. So we had actually 2 or 3 that we didn't complete. Is the group that was back there working, how many of y'all are actually still here? Let me see your hand of those that were here last week. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's enough of y'all to finish up. That's the way it usually happens, isn't it? All right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you back. Do y'all remember which one it was? Was it the one about the pastor? Y'all's was the one about on the mission to help. Y'all remember? I know we didn't do that one. I had a couple more than nobody was assigned. Do y'all remember what y'all's was? Was it about the mission to help the lady that wanted to do some work in the church? Millie? Okay. Here come one of them. She don't have her work. Look at that and see if that's it. Is that it? All right. So, you want to be with them, Mother Russell? You want? All right, you with them. All right, from Mother Russell back, y'all get together, y'all work on that again. I have 2 more that I need to have work done. I'm only giving y'all 5 minutes now. You're only going to get 5 minutes. We got to move on. All right. Let's see. Is that the right one? Okay. Now I need somebody to handle one with the pastor. Who wants to do the pastor? I got a sign. All right, this side over here. All y'all work together. Y'all want to deal with the pastor over here. All right? There's several little copies over here. Everybody on this side. Come work together on the pastor. And then this group from Deacon Harden forward, y'all come and y'all can deal with this one here. Who want to be the lead on this? It's several copies, so y'all come on together and y'all deal with it. I'm giving y'all 5 minutes to discuss it, and then we're going to deal with them as a group together. And again, if you need your confession of faith, hopefully somebody in the group has a confession so we can deal with it. All right? What number did I give y'all? What number is it? 7. What number y'all got? 8? 4? Number 4? Okay. All right. All right, you have 3 minutes. All right, y'all got a minute left. Y'all have a good time back there. All right, let's go ahead and wrap it up and let's get ready to present. Hopefully y'all got your decisions made. All right, y'all, let's go ahead and get ready. Which group gonna go first? Who's ready? Who's ready? Who's ready? Y'all ready back there? Y'all was supposed to be next, so y'all come on up. Y'all supposed to be next, so. All right, so y'all sending Jessica. So Jessica, you read us what the scenario states, and then y'all can discuss your plan of action, and then we'll see what we can do with that.
I'm on a mission to help. Millie is a hard worker. She has numerous gifts and she is always eager to share them with the church. She is truly a hard worker. Whenever she's asked to do something, she does it and she always gives it her all. She has joined just about every auxiliary and is an active member in each one. There's a group called Helping Hands for the Elderly that Millie wanted so badly to join. However, the chairperson, Allison, and some of the members of that organization keep discouraging her from joining their organization. They always tell her we have all the help we need this year, but maybe next time. Millie and other members could clearly see that this particular organization was struggling and could use a lot of help. But Allison was very particular about who she wanted in her organization. And she had a certain type of people she wanted to work with. And Millie was not one of them. Millie is so distraught and really wants to help this organization out. She asked Deacon Joe, who was not a part of the organization, how could she handle it? So question number 1 was, if you were Joe, what should your response be? We said that since Joe is a deacon, he cannot fully go to the committee and give his opinion, so he should maybe go talk to an elder, and then him and the elder could go to the committee and maybe try to work something out with them. Then if that didn't work, Millie should probably go to the session because it's a bigger issue that they won't let her help. So the second question is this a session issue? At the first point, no, like we say, unless they can come to a conclusion and they still just being mean to little old Millie. And what should Millie do? We said that Millie should just go home and pray. And let the Lord lead her decision. I mean, because Millie is in every auxiliary at the church. So how can you really give 100% to all these auxiliaries? Just, be happy with the ones you're in and focus on them. And then if Jesus say, hey, keep pursuing this committee, it's going to happen.
Okay.
And what reference could be made from the Confession of Faith? We said just the 13.00, and it is just a general, I think it's boards, committees, boards, committees, and commissions.
Which number?
13.0. You
Y'all
can
have
make
to help me.
it.
Y'all done made up a number. Oh, okay. You back in. Oh, you way back in the way. Okay, you in the
We
rules.
back in the back.
Okay, are there in the rules of order 13? What was it?
We just said any of them because all of them
Okay.
pertain to
All right, that begins on page 129 in the small confession.
we didn't pick one.
Okay. Right. Yeah, these do actually give directions to the committees and boards on their duties and their functions, which is a good place to reference. You probably could find a solution there. But what's another one that they could have referenced or should reference as well? Does anybody know another one? As it pertains to their issues. All right, let's turn to page 37, section 4.5. And I, letter I, reminds us that the session is to give oversight over all organizations within the church. So, you're right, as it became a session issue, if it was unresolved at the committee level, then whom should it be passed up to? All right, so let's go through their answers. They said that Deacon Joe, were they right about his role in it? He didn't have no role. Well, she went to him though, so how should he handle it if she came to him? Exactly. He's not to actually try to handle it on his own. He should try to seek the counsel of somebody in the session to provide an aid for him to make sure that covers him. Because if even though he is a deacon and he has his roles and responsibilities in the church, if he begins to operate outside of that, he has no covering. He has no protection. He then becomes liable for the things that happen. Am I making sense? So I want to make sure we understand there's a reasoning behind these things, and as long as you operate by what's been said before you, you can have a backing and you can have the protection that you need in case issues come. What's that? You told him. You told him. You was the wise counsel in that? All right. All right. What about Millie? They said she should go home and pray about it. Is that the best thing for Millie to do? She's too involved. You see, so she needs to fall back a little bit. What do you do with someone that has the passion to be at just about everything they can? All right, that's okay. But what should you do with someone who has the passion to serve in many auxiliaries?
But just make sure that you don't give them a heavy load of work.
Okay.
If
Okay. I hear you. Anybody else? Y'all acting bad back there. The key word, though, seriously, real talk, is the passion to do it. If someone has a passion, you never stifle the passion. You try to help them execute it in a way that's effective, because everybody that's passionate is not effective. But if they have the passion to do it, you never pull back somebody who has a desire to do something for the Lord. Now, it is unwise to do multiple things half-heartedly. That's not wise, nor is it good for the church or for the person. You should commit to whatever you're going to do, but if you can do 5 things well, do 5 things well. But don't make somebody else feel like they're bad because they do 1 thing well. Am I making sense? All right, so that's really, there is a fine line, and actually telling her to go and be prayerful about it is wise counsel, because in her prayer, she can get direction from God on what's too much and what's just enough for her. Nobody else can really tell her that, okay? All right, good deal? Questions or comments for them? Yes. Yes, thank you. I almost forgot. Allison almost got off the hook. All right, what do we do about Miss Allison? Miss Allison is the one that says this is her organization, and she's monitoring who's a part of her organization. That's a big no-no. What's the problem with that? It's not her organization. I don't care if she's been the head of the organization for 57 and a half years. She's not the one that dictates who can and who cannot be a part of that organization. Amen? So what should happen to Ms. Allison? Okay, that's the reasoning for the reference I gave you in the session. If this matter were turned to the session, what should be the appropriate action by the church session? Okay, all right, very good. Anyone else? That's the council. Remember that each person has the opportunity to have counsel with the session to give them the opportunity to right their wrongs. And then if she proceeds still in that same way, then the next actions would be necessary from the session. Okay? Does that make sense? All right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Amen. You're right about that. And she's hitting on something that's so key. Just because you are the chair of an organization doesn't mean you're the only one with ideas. You're supposed to help manage and moderate what happens within the meeting and the committee. Everyone's ideas should contribute to the end result of what's accomplished. Does that make sense? So that's exactly right. Now, obviously, there are sometimes some situations where no one speaks up, and then you as a chair have to lead towards what should happen. But if there are ideas and contributions being made, try not to disregard people as if their ideas don't matter. All right, good point. Anybody else? All right, great job. Appreciate that. All right, who's going to go next? Y'all ready to go over here? All right. You can stay right there if you want to. Save you some steps there.
Okay. I was tasked for congregational care, and this is a lady named Mrs. Mother Jackson believed that she should be running the youth ministry because the current advisor, Samantha, seemed to be struggling with her identity. Have identity issues. Mother Jackson tells the pastor and an elder one day that she saw Samantha with her arms around another female. Mother Jackson informed the pastor and the elder that she told the young lady her lifestyle was wrong and that she should no longer work with the youth. Mother Jackson then proceeded to give them her ideas on how she plans to grow the youth ministry. Assignment: what is wrong with this picture? We said that Mother Jackson, she was being, I'm going to put it in my words, they said it.
That's fine.
Because I can't remember everything they said.
That's all right.
The issue with this is Mother Jackson is being getting where she's
Judgmental. Okay.
She's being judgmental.
Okay.
And what should the pastor and the elders do? Describe how congregational care applies to the situation, and describe how might it be shared and by whom. There are legal applications here. Okay, we've said that she's being judgmental. That's what we wanted to do today. Now, what should the pastor and the elder do? We said that this is a session matter. It's in the paper says, I looked at it didn't say elder.
Right.
Elder.
Uh-huh.
That one individual.
Very good.
And describe how congregational care applies to the situation. Describe how might it be shared and by whom. It's not up to Mother Jackson
That's right.
to say anything to the young lady. And like he was saying, if the session they go to her and kind of he brought out another where they counsel. You go to the young lady and talk to her. But I'm looking at the situation where she talked to the lady herself. She talked to the lady herself. Now, you know, that's a no-no, because you can even get to the point where if you talk to her, then nobody else will want to get into the individual business. We shouldn't get into other people's business anyway. Are there legal applications? Now, we said yes, but we took it outside of the church.
Okay.
Because you can be sued for slander when you go to talking about people, and that's a no-no.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you, sir. I actually apologize to you all. I meant to take the congregational care portion out. This was a scenario I actually used when I taught the congregational care class a couple weeks ago, and they had this same scenario. But let's dissect this a little bit. All right. What are some of the issues with this scenario? He gave one in particular, but what are there any others? All right, let's talk about her being judgmental. She sees the young lady with her arm around another girl. What conclusion has she drawn? Does she have proof? But what does she do with what she thinks she knows? So let me ask you, do you think it's really because of what she saw, or do you think it's because of what she wants to do? You see what I'm saying? If you really read it, it said she already had ideas on what she was going to do. She was looking for a reason to move someone else out of the way so she could do what she wanted with what she thought was her organization. Okay? So a lot of times people can draw conclusions off of things they have no knowledge, nor should they even be a part of, which is what Elder Erskine was saying. It's important for us, even if we see something that genuinely does concern us. If she was actually genuinely concerned, she still didn't handle it the right way. How should she have handled it if she was genuinely concerned about the young lady? Session is the technical right way. Is there another way it could have been handled? So what? That's still basically going to session. Now we get somewhere. She's a mother of the church. Now let's walk this line rightly. How could she, as a mother of the church, approach this young lady in a way that would not have led to conflict? Thank you. Privately, one-on-one, and in love, if that was what God laid on her heart to do. That's the first thing. Now, if at that point it's not resolved properly, then what should she do? Absolutely. Y'all see what I'm saying? Now, even now, I don't care if you are a mother, if she went to the girl and just embarrassed her in front of the person, that's not operating in love. Okay? But as mothers, and as, not necessarily with the title of mother, but as a mother in the church, period, Ramisha, she feel the same compelling heart towards somebody. If she sees a young lady erring in her way, she should love that child enough as a person that's a part of this church family to try to reach them in a way that's relatable to them. Okay. They won't get offensive. Now, if this is a God thing, a God moment, and you operate by the Spirit of God in love, that person's heart may be prepared to receive what you have to say. But it does not erase the legal implications, which are there. You do, if you're not handling things properly, there can be legal implications. And he mentioned the slander, which is part of it, but also it can fall back on the church. And if it's not handled appropriately by the church standards, then you as a church family can be held liable as well. Okay? All right, any other questions or comments for that one? Amen. Lies and rumors spread faster than the truth. All day, every day. So that's exactly right. People are ready to feed off of that. All right. Anything else on that one? All right. I think that covered everything with that one. So we're good. Okay. All right. We're ready for number 4. Yes. Talking about the pastor. Yeah. All right. Who's got it? Redrick got this one? There you go, sir.
We discussed this where you're going pastor. This is about a pastor who was pastor of a church for 30 years. Now, it didn't tell us whether he was pastor of CPCA, some others. So we assuming
Okay.
CPCA, is that correct?
Yeah, let's do that. CPCA.
So now, since he's CPCA pastor, he was given an opportunity to be a pastor of a Baptist church. They meet on Saturdays. So he did accept the opportunity, but they had some good perks. Apparently, they weren't as good as the one we have here. But Pastor Luther, he accepted the responsibility and he took the church. Then after accepting that church's call, the churches at the CPCA church realized that he was not preaching the doctrine which he had been preaching for 30 years. So the question, we're going straight to the question.
Okay.
Is this a session matter? We initially said yes, then we went and got a confession of faith.
Okay.
Now, the confession of faith first takes us over to when it deals with discipline individuals.
Okay.
Okay, when we're talking about a pastor, we should have said, no, it's not a section matter, that is a presbytery matter.
All right.
Okay? That is, starts on page 49, that just tells us where the simply says that it's a pastor, they go to the presbytery.
Okay.
Then we want to go to page 73, 72, discipline of ministers. Okay, should the pastor have to choose? Well, when he meets with the presbytery, they will address the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And say, should the pastor have to choose? First, they're going to have to deal with what he did.
Right.
Without reforming him. Because once he was sent to CPCA church, if he did something outside of that church, or even go to another CPCA church, he has to do it through his presbytery. Okay? So the next question is, should the pastor have to choose? He will have to choose, but he will be disciplined, I'm sure.
Right.
Before he gets to choosing.
Right.
Then the next question was, what are the appropriate steps to take in this matter? Like I say, once he gets to the presbytery, if he's found out, the pastor said, first there will be counseling, there will be discussion, we will give his side, the church will give his side, and then a decision will be made. If the pastor does not agree with the presbytery, he can appeal that's what would be a final decision made. It would be made based on what's in this confession of faith. Then the last thing is that what reference should be made from the confession of faith. I think I gave you.
Yeah, you gave those. Okay. All right. All right. Let's. Look like you did some research, didn't you? All right. Now, we got to talk about this a little bit. All right. Technically, you are all absolutely correct. What'd she say? However, could there be a discrepancy there? What? How the elders? That's true. They didn't have most of the elders, but that's not we still got to learn something here. All right. Was every step covered appropriately? Yeah, that mattered.
But they did say they're going to come to the session before they put it out.
Did they? All right, so let's iron that out. Although it is correct, the presbytery does have jurisdiction and disciplinary responsibilities of all ordained ministers, there should have first been a discussion in the church session first. Okay? The point is, remember I told you, you should never bypass the current judicatory in order to go to the next. So there should have been at least a discussion. They can't counsel him per se, or her, whomever it is, but they should have at least addressed their concerns there first. And then if the minister didn't speak to it in a way that allows there to be unity, then they absolutely did everything else the exact correct way. Does that make sense? It's very important that each little detail, it seems like a small thing, but if they do it, if they just get together and then go to presbytery, guess what? The minister actually can fight that because they did not follow what this states and bring it to the session first. Okay, does that make sense? So if they handle it the correct way, each little step, that's why the question said, were the appropriate steps taken in this matter? What are the appropriate steps to take? Each little step is extremely important so that you can get to the expected end result that's needed. Okay? But very good as far as the referencing. The other confession to reference was on page 65, section 2.2. And this does tell us that the responsibility and authority for the discipline of ministers and churches rests with the presbytery to which they belong. And they did that. They mentioned that and referenced that at that point, once they turn it over to the presbytery, it is then a presbytery matter to counsel that minister, to do the due diligence, to follow up to make sure that he or she is abiding by what they agreed to do when they took leadership of that church. It could have been resolved there. Absolutely. That's the point. They could have very easily made their concerns known. And if he really did have a heart for that church, I believe they could have resolved it there before it had to go to the presbytery. You're right. That would be the hope with that meeting. Not to stand in judgment or not to stand, but express your concerns. Because a church session ought to be harmonious anyway. And if there is a reason, there's going to be some bumps along the way. But if there's a heart for each other, there ought to be a way to come together at that place first. Because let me tell you something, just speaking from experience, I'm serving in a lot of capacities in the church and see a lot of things. You want to try to keep church matters as much as you can. That's what I'm saying. Because if you can handle it at home, you're better off than if you allow other people who really have no true understanding of the personalities of your church and the climate and all of that to come in and make decisions. They're going to stand firm on this, which is good. But at the same time, if you as a church know the makings of it and you know what your issues are and you can work together, it benefits you to work together in love and try to handle it the best way you can first. Okay? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It wasn't wise for him to do. No, I don't support that. I don't necessarily think he should be allowed to necessarily do both, especially if he has no ability to discern the difference between the two. Then he is wrong in that. But they should bring that to his attention and make him aware of what the concern is and that this is what we believe and so forth. So, now he should be let off the hook for that. But he should be given an opportunity to speak to it at that court first. Okay, good point. Anyone else? Yes.
I guess the worst, the pastor of any church, our church,
Mm-hmm.
he wants to go and pastor a certain church. So you're saying that he does it, session, immediately confronting about it.
Mm-hmm.
And say this, is it appropriate for a session to that fact?
I wouldn't think it would be. I would hope not. I don't think that would be.
I would think, as we were discussing this, that, yes, I'm sure we would confront him.
Right.
Before we go to the presbytery.
Yeah.
But I think it would lead to the fact that, hey, we need to confront him.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then the matter has to be resolved by the presbytery.
Oh, absolutely.
Not be part of, okay, now we confront him.
Mm-hmm.
And we said, oh, I shouldn't have done it. So you said,
If he admits to that and he's willing to fix his mistake and the session is okay with that, then that's fine. But even if he admits his mistake, if there is disharmony in the session and they still feel it's an issue, they still have the right to submit it higher. But the point is, if he's willing to admit his wrong and work through it there, and everybody agrees, it is right and okay to do it and handle it that way first. Yeah.
the presbytery didn't win of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they didn't win of it. You're preaching. So can they step in, or when they come to the session, or at least, would it have to originate the ears before they even get involved?
That's a very good question. Say someone did catch wind of it. What should happen? And I'll tell you what probably would happen, but what should happen? Say somebody at the Presbyterian level hears about it and they have not yet been contacted by the church session. What should happen?
I think
Okay, but what should happen? You're right, but what should happen? El Lockhart? Okay, you're close. They should contact, or they should contact that session. They should send a letter of concern on behalf of the presbytery to that church session, and then the church session is obligated to respond, either favorably or expressing that there are concerns. But that's the way it should happen. And some of these other things might happen, but the correct way is through that form. Yes, ma'am. Me personally, like as the minister of the church? Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. Yes, you do. Yeah, you absolutely do that. In that instance, then you would either, I guess, you would resign or dissolve your relationship. Yeah, you have the choice to disassociate your relationship with your church. You still have to do it the right way. You submit it through the proper, in your church session. They would submit it to the presbytery. And if it's the will of the session and everybody's agreeable, they would just dissolve the relationship. But yeah, you have that right at any time. We're not held hostage. Yes, ma'am. Correct. You would again have to basically absolve yourself of all your credentials with the Cumberland Presbyterian Church, and whatever denomination you go to have to abide by whatever their standards are. But the understanding is if you leave this denomination, and you decide to return, you'd have to start all over as if you were never here. So that's the understanding now. There used to be some people hop around and just come back and just pick up where they left off. That doesn't happen anymore. You're free to leave, but if you leave, you're saying you're leaving your complete association with this CPCA denomination. And that's it. Amen. But there are a lot of reasons behind that. Unfortunately, a few people can mess things up for everybody, and you had some people that would come because our ordination protocol was very lenient. They would come and get ordained here and then just leave and go do other things saying they're ordained. But the presbytery is still responsible for that person, technically, because they ordained them. So they did away with that to make it to where you want to be accountable for what you're saying you want to do. So that's the reason why. And you had some people that would come and be ordained and never do anything. They stopped going to churches and stopped just people. I saw a hand over here. Somebody? All right. Never mind. Any other questions or comments for that one? Yes, eventually it is. However, if you get the gist of what we're stating, there are some things that can be resolved at that level if everybody's working together. But if there becomes an issue that's unresolvable, then the church session is the government that's in place for this church. So that's where it should be handled. To basically answer your question. If you just mad at Julinkia because she talked about you and y'all get together and resolve that, that would be ideal instead of just running to the session. She told and said she don't like my mama. And then Sugar got mad at it. That don't make no sense to bring to the church session if y'all can help it. That's just, you see what I'm saying? But if somebody is operating in a committee and they're not doing something right, then you should try to handle that on your own. Okay? That's what I'm saying. It can be petty, but if it can be resolved, resolve it. That's the right Christian thing to do. But if it cannot be resolved, don't be trying to fight battles on your own because it can become a bigger mess. And you have to learn. But either way, you still need to know the government of your church so that you know the right steps and protocols so that you do handle things rightly and don't get yourself into some mess. Okay? Anything else? I can't speak to that. I don't know. I don't know. They usually try to have, there's some that are independent completely. There's some that have affiliations with each other. Even there are some non-denominationals that still have a fellowship, I should say. They may not have a denomination per se, but they have fellowship with other churches. So, but I can't get into that. So. All right. Real quickly, Ramisha, read yours, and then we're just going to have a quick discussion about that, and then we're going to get out of here. I didn't want to start anything new since we're going to miss next week, but this will be the last night on all of this. So read that last one real quick.
It's called Confidentiality. Pam is known at the church as a financial whiz. She has a business that she promotes online, and she is quick to post her success on Facebook. She is asked by the session at her church to review their proposal for a future project where the church can help struggling mothers who need financial aid. Upon handing over their financial info, Pam assures them that their info is in good hands. One day, while on the phone with a friend, Pam discloses info regarding this project. Pam's friends then post info telling another friend that Pam's church can help her financially. Before Pam realized what happened, the church was receiving all kinds of calls from people needing help financially.
All right, y'all see what happened? She's posted a lot of stuff on Facebook. She inadvertently posted some information that she was not supposed to, and now everybody want a handout because they heard the church is giving away money. So what's the problem with this situation here, real quickly? First of all, it says, is this a session matter? What makes it a session matter? Let's say what? It's concerning the church, and it's some very personal information within the church as well. All right. What action should be taken, and by whom?
First of all, they shouldn't have come to someone in the church. When it comes to things like that, you come to the door side of the church to find someone that is not affiliated with the church. Therefore, they can be on the walls and things of that nature. And probably not.
Okay. All right. I hear you. Anybody else? I agree with that, but in their mind, they're going to her because she's good with money. She's a member of the church. They thought they could trust her. So that's the logic behind why they asked her, trying to tap into one of her giftings and resources that she has. And in defense for her, she didn't intentionally just share the information.
But you don't share financial anything.
I'm with you. I'm not. She ain't off the hook. But I'm saying,
So our church over.
amen. You're exactly right. But I'm saying she, in her mind, she didn't maliciously just go tell everybody. But she was still absolutely wrong. And let's draw that connection. If you are asked by the church, especially by the church session, who's the only person that really should be asking you, to handle something that is extremely sensitive within the church, handle it with very confidentiality, sensitivity. Don't share it with your grandma, because it's not for anyone to get their hands on it. You've been trusted for whatever reason. This wouldn't likely happen, but if it did, you've been trusted for whatever reason with some very sensitive information. And as you can see, sensitive information in the wrong hands becomes a big problem. Okay? All right. What else is going on here? What else is the issue? She posted it on Facebook, and now other people are getting the information. So how should the church handle the people that are now requesting help? Turn them over to the deacons. How should they handle it? Now, I know it's for real. That's what we're talking about. How There you go. Very good. Thank you, sir. As an elder, you're speaking correctly. Fortunately for this church, there are parameters that are set up to handle this. If it did get out of hand and calls are being made, the deacons are very well versed and are doing a great job of knowing how to properly police this so that this church's finances are not misused inappropriately by people who have gotten even bad information or good information. There is a pretty good system set up that really monitors that, still provides the right assistance, but at a case-by-case situation that fully represents this church's response to that person's need. And not just because everybody's saying you get what I'm saying? It's a very good system, thankfully, that's been worked out and it's working well. So, and the reference to the Confession of Faith on that one was on page 64, the Rules of Discipline. The whole section, 1.1, it states all the disciplinary actions that would be taken or should be taken by the church for that person. We talked about it being under the jurisdiction of the church, but that lays out the specifics of what each step would look like, and then depending on that person's response, what would be the next action. So that's on page 64, and it's 1.1 through 1.3. It's about 7 or 8 bullet points. All right. Did we learn something from these scenarios? Oh, absolutely. Yes. In that reference, it talks about how she would be counseled. She would definitely, first of all, it would be removed immediately. And then she would be explained why that was an issue, what the problem was, and advised strongly and sternly to never repeat that behavior. But yes, that would be removed immediately, and that's why I have tasked our social media, some of them are here, they'll tell you, very firmly to monitor and police everything that goes on the internet that has Blackburn Chapel's name attached to it. Because I don't want people's opinions to be represented as what this church states. And if it's ever comes to us that there's a problem, we would handle it immediately and appropriately, because we cannot afford to have even people in our church misrepresenting the message of this church. It's very important. Social media, those things can be a real big blessing. They are, but they can be a big problem if they're not handled appropriately. So, all right. Just hope we learned something from that. Just wanted to, we study. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was kind of speak on it that in the session, that when somebody brings something to the session, that it's kept there.
Yes.
If you have any problems, don't worry about bringing it to the session, because we don't need that room.
Okay. That's a good point. As a member of this church, we want you to feel the complete confidence and trust that you can bring any matter, personal or corporately or collectively, to your church session in confidence. Get the help you need without it going and infiltrating this church. The session will tell you that one of our conversations constantly is to make sure things that we handle stay within the walls of that session. And even if it's ugly matters, whatever it is, we handle it there together. And when we leave in love. So we want you to feel comfortable. If there's something you need help with, something that you don't understand, something going on in the church that needs to have attention paid to it, it needs to be directed to the session. It does not need to be directed to an elder. Hear me, y'all. It doesn't do you good to tell an elder. It needs to be, remember we talked about this last week, how should it come to the session? In letter form, and directed to your church session, your clerk. That's the best way to make sure that it gets handled, and it gets handled in a way that you can trust that your confidence can be secure with the session. Can the session say amen to me on that? Amen. We want you to trust us, and we want to be able to trust you as well. We're working on some things you'll find out as we're having some of our members meetings. We're even trying to find new ways to make sure we hold ourselves accountable. And I'm challenging them on some new things as well to make sure we improve our relationship with you all. But have the trust with us and the confidence that you're not to be fighting these things by yourself. We're all here together to serve the purpose that God has laid for us to do. And we want you to have that confidence in us that you can trust, that you can come to us in those matters. Thank you, Elder Cable, for that. That's a good point. Anything else? You got two. You're on a roll, ain't you? Next week is Thanksgiving. I had something I wanted to share with you all. I may try to send it out to you email. It's the title of it is Thanksgiving, the Power of a Thankful Heart. And it does an excellent job of explaining to us the power behind being thankful in all seasons and all moments of your life. There's a way the enemy tries to keep us locked up in our emotions. But when you can learn to be thankful in spite of, it looses his attachments to you and gives God an opportunity to come in a new way. That's what praise and thanksgiving and thankfulness will do. And a lot of times we miss that. So I'm going to send that out to you all. It just talks about and gives some scripture references on how to be thankful and have a thankful heart that keeps you connected with God in your ups and your downs. And it's a very empowering thing. Okay? Anything else? No Bible study next week. Don't eat too much turkey though, y'all. Don't have to come repent because of gluttony or nothing like that, all right? We do have a Thanksgiving service. GHIMF has one this Sunday at 4 p.m. at St. Barton. If anybody wants to attend. Elder Mooney is preaching. I think St. Barley is singing, and it's representing all the churches. I think I got to do a scripture or something. I can't remember, but it's for the community, and our church is a part of that fellowship. So I wanted you to make sure you knew about it in case you want to be a part of it. Okay? Anything else? Yes. We were able to get all the elders some pictures, so you want to get that if you can. That might not ever happen again. But all the elders have a picture in there, and we're going to try to get that on the website and everything. We're going to try. Now, just as we get all the elders' pictures, now we got 4 more we got to get. And a bunch of deacons too, but we'll get there eventually. That's a good problem to have. Anything else? At Right Hope? Okay. 6 o'clock, Right Hope. All right, anything else? All right, if nothing else, we can start standing to be dismissed. Thank you, sir. Any prayer requests, praise reports? Need some desserts for Saturday's funeral, mothers. And of course, everyone knows that funeral is at 12 noon here Saturday for, well, anyone. She said anybody. She's welcoming anybody. And that is for our very own brother Malik Miller and the Miller family. So let's continue to keep them lifted in prayer, and let's try to be a support to them as best we can. All right? Nothing else? Oh. All right, I'm going to ask for Reverend Snodgrass if she would give us a word of prayer, please.